Welcome to 15.1 Right Triangle Trigonometry. What's important is that for all of these problems you're going to need to establish a right angle, and then we're going to be able to use basically SOHCAHTOA and our last chapter's information. So for the first problem we have triangle cow, angle C is 90, side length C is 18, and angle W is 42 degrees. So we're going to draw a picture. So now we have our triangle labeled. We're going to fill in all the information that we can find. So the first thing that we can find quickly is that we can find angle O is 48 degrees because three angles add up to 180 degrees in a triangle. Then we can use the 42 to find little w. So little w is the side opposite angle W. So we'll say the sine of 42 is equal to the opposite side W over the hypotenuse 18. Then we're going to multiply through by 18 on both sides. And we're going to multiply 18 times sine of 42. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. We're going to estimate this, and then ends up rounding to about 12. So that's the length of side W, also known as side OC. And then for side O, we have options. We can use the sine function, but I'm going to stick with 42, and I'm going to do the cosine of 42 because that's the adjacent side. So we're going to call that side O over 18. Make sure if you use O, you know it's not a 0. And I'm going to multiply through very similarly by 18. And then I'm going to go ahead and compute that on my calculator. And I'm going to get 13.4 is equal to little o. And there you have it. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2, we're going to bring back a concept that probably came up in geometry. Maybe you see it in physics. But one summer afternoon, you look up in the sky and you see Mr. L soaring through the air on his hang glider. Mr. L's angle of depression to you is 20 degrees, and he is 800 feet above the ground. Find how far Mr. L is from you in ground distance. Note, it is 5 feet from the ground to your eyes. So, we're going to draw a picture. Here you are, and you know this distance is 5 feet. You are looking up, and you are seeing Mr. L, who is up here, hang gliding. His angle of depression should be your angle of elevation. So when we look at a person's normal line of sight is straight out in front of them. So whether it's Mr. L or you, your normal line of sight is straight out in front. The angle of elevation and the angle of depression would be the same. I'll pause a moment and think about why would that be this case. And the answer to that question is that the normal lines of sight are parallel lines, so therefore alternate interior angles are congruent. So we're going to complete our triangle. You really can complete either triangle that you want, from Mr. L's perspective to you, or from your perspective to Mr. L. The key is that we have right angles. We know where the 20 degrees go. And basically, if we translate this 5 feet over here, we are trying to figure out x because we want to know how far excuse me, I misspoke. Reread the problem. We actually want to know the ground distance, which happens to be right here. That's x. And they told us the height was 800, so we know this is 795 feet. Most trig problems basically will ask you questions like this, but they will never tell you the height of the person or the level of the view from the eyes. So technically it's from your eyes. So if they don't tell you how tall the person is, you just have to go with it and assume that they're on the ground and just basically disregard that. But if they give you the height, you can consider it. So basically looking at this triangle, we have 20 degrees, we have 795, and we have x. So if we set that up, that's the tangent function. Oops, sorry about that. That's the tangent function. So we have the tangent of 20 degrees equals 795 over x. So to solve this problem, similar to above, we have to multiply through by x. But now we have x times tangent of 20 equals 795. And remember, we're solving for x. So we're going to divide by the tangent of 20 on both sides. And we're going to get x equals 2,184.2 feet. I'm not going to go through all of these problems on this worksheet for you. I'm going to kind of skip around, but I'm going to leave number 3 for you, and I will post the answers on my Google website for you to check. I'm also going to leave number 4 for you to practice. Again, the pictures sometimes can be deceiving, but I'm going to let you try number 4 on your own and check the website. We'll move on to number 5. Number 5 says an observer on a cliff 100 meters above sea level sights 2 ships. So we have an observer 100 meters above sea level. So here's your observer. Sights 2 ships. The angles of depression of the ships are 47 degrees and 32 degrees. Now, you got to take a little strategy here. Ship A and ship B. And if you think about what's going on here, which one would be 47 and which one would be 32? Now remember, angle of depression is equal to angle of elevation. So I really think it's easier to label the angle of elevation from the ship's perspective here. So 47 degrees. Think about ship A. It's further away from the observer. So is its angle going to be 47 or 32? Well, think about if you were standing next to a building and you walked steadily back from the building. Would you have to tilt your head further up or less? And the answer to that question is you would be less. The further back you get from a building, the easier it is for you to see. So angle A's perspective is 32 degrees, and angle B's perspective is 47 degrees. So if we look at these functions and we're trying to say find the distance between the 2 ships, our goal is to find x. But before we can find x, we're going to have to find w, and we're going to have to find y. So if we set this up, we have the tangent of 47 equals 100 over w. And we can quickly multiply through and solve this by taking w equals 100 divided by the tangent of 47. So w is going to equal 93.3. And if we do the other one, we'll have the tangent of 32 equals 100 over y. So y is going to equal 100 over tangent 32. So y is going to equal about 160. So then therefore x is going to be the difference between the two. 160 minus 93.3. So we're going to get about 67 meters apart. 6.7 meters apart. That concludes your video for today. Good luck with your homework.